Welcome, sisters, brothers, seekers, seers, to another episode of The Second Coming. Thanks for joining our community. I'm your host, Jason Keaton, and we're here with Brother T. Brother T, you're in the house. How's it going this week?
Oh, it's going great, man. Good morning. Good morning. Good to see you this morning, and glad to be back here on The Second Coming.
Absolutely, absolutely. What do you have on your agenda this week coming up?
Well, we are we're still on the road, and in fact, I've been in Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida, and Ohio, and planning right now a trip to Virginia.
Oh, beautiful! It's great to be on the road, and you got that beautiful coach that get to move your home wherever you are. So I always say the dwelling sometimes gets small, but the yard is amazing, right? So
yeah. God's got me on I guess a new lifestyle altogether. Very unexpected, but that's kind of where we're at. So I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it, and getting to see people, and just spreading good word. And the way things are going these days, a little good word is a good thing, right? So
absolutely. That brings me to a first question for today. Is I'm watching TV and these political ads, and I'm not going to bring a bunch of politics in there, but what I'm focusing on is this division and this hatred in this country. That's kind of fueled by the division of politics. And it reminds me of some passages that I of judgment and self-judgment that I've read in The Way of Mastery. And I'd like you to kind of talk about what we can do as a community, as followers, as our enlightened soul, to see this division differently.
Okay. Well, before we begin, let's take a good deep breath, and let's just center for just a moment. So we're going to say hello and good morning. I'm hearing I love you. So let's just kind of jump in. The new can only come at the cost of the old. And what is happening, and it's been, dare I say, millions of years in the process, is this planet is becoming what its intention was in its conception. And Spirit wanted to develop a three-dimensional world of form, experience of form, on a planet here in this universe where Spirit can come and know what it's like, an experience, if you will, life in form, right? And Jesus was the first one that we have good record of, at least, as Christ. So what is Christ? Christ is God in form, okay? And Jesus was identified by the church, as God. And that was part of the construct that they developed to say Jesus was different than you. Jesus was different than me. That Jesus was one of a kind. Jesus was God come to earth, to point out all of our deficiencies and all of that. No, that was just the first coming, right, of the iteration of God being expressing in form. Now, God is expressing in form through her children, if you will, and that would be our soul. So Jesus, the personality, human self, literally just went to the background, so to speak. And Jesus said it this way: "So when you see me, you see the Father." So he was saying that I am God's child, And I am the expression of God in form because as God's child, I am one with the will of God. I am one with God. And that points back to the wholeness of God, the oneness of the mind of God, and everything within this mind of God, which is you and I as examples, are one with that. But it's our soul that is one with that, if you will. So Jesus was the first coming, and he portended and told us, that there was going to be a second coming. Well, that's what we learned in the Bible, at least, that there's a second coming. The second coming is the name of our podcast, because that's what our conversation's about. But the second coming isn't where Jesus comes back and rules the world. It's where we participate as he did in the process of manifesting heaven on earth. So if we were to imagine heaven on earth today, would we be seeing any of the things that we see through our media, through our social media, through our regular media, through the whole construct of government and politics and economics, the banking system, all the structures that we, the ego, and I want to say, when I say we here, I'm talking about the egoic operating system, the default operating system of humanity. When we first come into form, we have an operating system that keeps us alive and keeps our body moving and so forth, so that we can assimilate into the world of form. But then when we get to a certain point of growth of our soul, then our soul begins to step forward and be who we are expressing as. And that is God in form. That is Christ. So imagine not one Christ as Jesus, but tens of thousands of Christ in the world. And that energy, that amount of God energy, that increase in God energy, that love on this planet, Jason, is going to transform the planet into what it was originally intended to be, which is heaven on earth. But that cannot come into manifestation until the old literally becomes replaced by the energy of Christ's love and the vision of Christ. And that's really what's happening. So at once it appears that there's a lot of stuff to deal with, but at the same time, this is a transformation of what was always intended by Spirit for us to be expressing in form as here on planet Earth. And so it's confusing to the mind of the ego, certainly, and to the masses of the planet, because the billions of people that are here, most of them have no construct or no idea. They've not been informed of what I've just shared with you here. And so those that are watching our podcast, thanks for joining us. You're kind of a special place because you're on the leading edge. If you're listening to my voice, if you're listening to our conversation here, you're on the leading edge of that transformation. And it's not going to be, a snap, a big explosion, a big bomb. It's not going to be what a lot of people envision as, Jesus comes back to earth and boom, suddenly, we're in a new world. No, it's been happening for 2,000 years. It continues to happen, and it's going to be happening for several more decades, easily, certainly, possibly a few more hundred years. But we are at the end of a new, or the current, I should say, creation cycle. And so this is a lot of stuff I'm pointing to here, Jason, but it is happening. It's what's going on. So at once there's good news that the transformation is happening, and what are we going to expect? Well, we're going to expect a lot of things that we found safety in, that we've constructed. I should say the ego mind construct of the human operating system has constructed together to protect ourselves from our brothers and sisters. So we have government, we have military, we have politics in the government systems, we have economic systems, we have borders, we have laws, we have rules, we have all of these constructs of safety, but really they're constructs of separation. And there is no such thing as separation. Those are illusions. We cannot be separate from God. We cannot be separate from each other. We can't be separate from another country, and the people in those countries are they are part of us, because ultimately the body of Christ, which are all of God's children, is going to express and is beginning to express, and we are part of that. So again, if we're looking at the world today, if we're looking at the news, what can we do for the world? Well, the first thing we can do is to unplug, pull the cord, unplug. Don't give it any of your awareness and your attention, because if you're giving it your awareness and attention, you're actually adding energy to it. Especially if you see something on the, I mean, it's okay to be informed. I'm not saying you shouldn't be informed, but if you've seen some images of violence, as an example, you don't need to keep looking at more violence. You kind of see it. You know that's what's going on. That's fine. You know what's going on, but unplug from that. In other words, set an environment. This is called an intention, to not participate in the insanity, because this is insanity, and not participate in it, but to be the strength of sanity by being connected with your higher self, by knowing your purpose here is to be loving and forgiving and allowing and accepting of whatever is going on, because it has to happen the way it's happening. It has to deconstruct so that the new can come into existence. Now, I've shared a lot here, Jason, so I'm going to quit talking and see what your questions might be about what I've shared and how that might apply to your situation or someone else's as they're looking at what's going on in the world today. And of course, to the self that does not know who it is that we are God's children, and that there's nothing to be afraid of whatsoever. Fear is an illusion itself, actually. This can be really frightening. It can be stressful, and there'd be a lot of hand wringing and gnashing of teeth, and people don't know what's going to happen. Well, what's going to happen is love is going to take over the planet, and that's a good thing. The good is coming, but it can only come at the cost of the old.
Very, very well put. And what's something that we can do other than just completely unplugging, because we want to be informed, like you said, especially when we're trying to decide between two politicians and trying to get the information, and surrounding all of that is, whether you're getting it from the news or the internet, you're getting fed all of this distractions and fear. What's something that we can stay informed, but maybe a tool that we can use to help distance ourselves? You mentioned that, don't give it energy. What's a technique that you can recommend that we can observe but not give it our energy? Be observed and be informed, but not give it our energy. Is there a technique that you found that might help with us? Let's start with that.
Yes, absolutely. Number one, when we're looking at what is going on, the default operating system, the egoic mind, in I want to say 1/10,000th of a second, has an opinion. It gives meaning to everything that it experiences. Throughout the day, all day long, we will give meaning, the ego will give meaning to everything that we're experiencing, right? But we can approach it from a position of being joined with our higher self, with our true self, by simply taking a step of practice, and it's called the holy instant. And in the practice of the holy instant, we do what we just did a little bit ago, and we stop everything. We tap the brake. We say, wait a minute, stop right here and take a good deep breath. And we turn within. And now that we've turned within, we're at the center of our being. We're letting the world be out there, and we're saying, are you there? Hello. And we become joined in that space, in that place where fear cannot reside. I like to call it the upper room, and this is a phrase that came from the work of Paul Selig and the Guides. Their teaching is completely 100% in alignment with everything Jesus has been teaching us certainly over the last few decades here, as we are beginning to really open up to the reality of who and understanding of who we are. And so in that place, Fear cannot reside, number one. Number two, we're also joined with the mind of certainty. Okay, and some people may say, well, I've never had that experience. I don't even really know what that is. I don't understand. That's okay. Just practice this. Take a good deep breath, pause for a second, and turn within, and just ask yourself, your soul is yourself, right? Your true self, capital S self, and just start having communication, and start having conversation, and just ask that self, how can I be the expression of love in this particular situation, or in this moment, or I'm feeling some fear from what I'm seeing here. How can I transcend that energy and that expression? And then just be quiet and listen, because when we're present, when we go vertical instead of horizontal, that's looking at the past to predict the future, that's what this ego mind does. And we say, get thee behind me. So the practice is to literally tap the brake, as I like to say, and just pause and whatever's going on and whatever your thinking is, and say, I'm just going to be quiet for a second, and I'm going to turn within and connect with my true self, the mind of certainty, because there is no fear there. There is only absolute certainty. And the more you're in that space, this inner dimension, I call it the fourth dimension, the more that you're connected there, the more peaceful you're going to be, and the more you're willing to allow whatever's happening out in the world to do what it's doing, because this too shall pass. Everything is in transition, and this too shall pass. And what we're transitioning to is a beautiful new world. And that ability that you have, each of us have, to hold that space, we could say holding vigil, or holding an energy of love and acceptance, allowance and forgiveness, that is healing for the entire world. It's a healing for everyone near you, near and far. It changes everything in the universe. So that's a simple practice. Now, I've talked for a minute about it, but simply just stop whatever's going on. Turn off the news or whatever you need to do to find a place of peace and quiet in your life. Close your eyes and simply turn within and be joined there with your true self. And allow yourself to feel your way through this peaceful, loving place of interconnectedness with your soul, because that's really what's going on there. And you have to give it your attention. It's waiting for you to do that, and has been for a long time. But the time for us to recognize who we are in God, in truth, is our soul. And our soul is ready to begin expressing and helping us navigate these uncharted waters of this transformation to the kingdom of heaven on earth.
Beautifully put, Brother T. And if we think back, there's been conflict and war and politics since before Jesus. I mean, they're the Romans and everything, and Pontius Pilate, all of that was happening through Jesus. And now with our interconnectedness and our media and stuff, we get exposure to that more. But if we reframe that and realize, if we hold our energy, like you said, Brother T, it's so amazing, because without all of that technology, we wouldn't be able to bring you this message here today from Brother T. So if we reframe and give the energy of love to what we have, it's a beautiful message. So thank you, Brother T. Thank you. And I think,
I'm glad to share.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts before we wrap it up?
Well, let's see. Hold on. Indeed, there is good news. There is good news. And it can only be broadcast through us. We are the transformation that's happening. We are transforming ourselves into our true self in truth. We know who we are, we know what we are, and we know how we came here to serve. We came here to be in service. We raised our hand to come into this incarnation, to be a part of this transformation that's happening. And so while at first brush, it doesn't sound possible, but we've had some wonderful examples that it is possible. and we are seeing it and living it. And those of us, and if you're participating in the second coming here with us, you're a part of this movement. You're absolutely already a part of it. And there's really nothing to do out there. All the work is to be done within, where we are allowing ourselves to just be the channel, if you will, to be the conduit for a different energy in the world. That is not separation. It's the energy of unity. It's the energy of union. It's the energy of being joined and braided with love itself, which is what we are. That's our true nature. So while the world is sorting through all of its, processes of expressing separation in whatever way it can, and it just keeps multiplying that. We've gone from, being separate from each other through borders, and now we're talking about being separate from each other through the way we look, the political, affiliation, whatever it might be. Those are all constructs of a mind that's continuously operating in fear and operating from a place of separation. So that is not your true self. The world is in the process of healing, and we have to let those things play out. Again, this too shall pass, and there is much good news. And we can be in that place immediately by taking a brief moment of remembering who we are, that God is our source, that love is what we are, and just tap that brake, take a good deep breath, unplug from the world, and don't add energy to it. Just bless it, forgive it, and know that it's, in its own way, is taking care of what it has to do as it does. And I think that's plenty to do today, right? Is to just allow the world to do what it's doing without getting caught up in it, and know that this transformation has been foretold for millenniums, and it's coming now. It's here now, and we're going through it. And so thank you for being a part of it in your own way, and to add love as a Christ office, if you will, and helping other people overcome their fear. If you can just witness to other people that you're not afraid, and you know that something new and good and wonderful is manifesting, you can help other people step back away from their fear as well. So we become the example, as Jesus did, and become the example of love and union here in our world. Thank you so much, Jason, for all of your attention today and participation in the conversation. I really appreciate your thoughts and sharing.
Thank you, Brother T. Thank you for holding this vibration of love for all of us. And thank you for the reminder to connect with our higher self, to breathe and to be present. So that's a good assignment for us for today and this week going forward. So I'm going to close there and say thank you for joining us again this week. Thank you for your attention, and we will see you next week in another episode of The Second Coming.
God bless.